Hey everyone, today in our Can She DIY It series, we are taking a new baby step in sewing. We are attempting a soft corset. I say soft because this is not to be confused with the types of corsets that make you faint from shortness of breath, but instead it's really like a tank top with some corset boning details, but through that, I'm hoping, and I hope for you too, we're gonna learn a lot about just boning and structure in tops. I've received plenty of DMs about this Vivienne Westwood style, as well as this softer Dion Lee look, and this is the one that we're going to be attempting today. If you follow my steps and learn from my mistakes, hopefully you'll be able to make it too. Just like when I made my Louis Vuitton inspired harness, I will be starting with these bodice patterns that I got from a workshop I took in Toronto. They've been so helpful. This one is the front, this one is the back. They're perfectly fitted to me. They have the darts marked into them, so I use these to make a shell, and then from the shell I adjust it to the shape that I want the finished product to be. I use this pattern to cut out a symmetrical front and a symmetrical back out of a sample knit fabric, and then I transfer the dart markings, pin those in place so I can sew my draft bodice. I'm wearing it inside out so you can see the darts, and then I drew on the shape that I'm aiming for. It's kind of a rounded square neck in the front, and then I tried to draw the places where all the different corset boning designs are gonna go. On both sides there is one channel along the obliques, 3 in the front, and there's 2 horizontal channels across the chest. I make sure the shoulder straps connect from the front to the back and that the armhole connects around the sides. Once you're happy with your drawing, you can cut away all the excess, cut the pattern apart, and we want one back piece and one front piece. So I'm about to cut this out, and the goal here is for this back middle to be vertically aligned so that the place where they meet is nice and neat. However, that means that once we get over here, the stripes are kind of off kilter, and I don't know if I'm going to be happy with that or not. But let's get it cut out. This is a tube, so there are 2 layers, which is perfect. Then I'll get the 2 symmetrical back pieces cut out in one go. And then the rest of this tube up here is going to be used to make one front piece. Just like I did with the draft bodice, I transferred the dart markings onto the white fabric and then I pinned them in place before sewing in the darts. When I'm pinning the darts, I do this method of having a pin poke through the fabric along the dart lines, which therefore brings the dart lines together, and then I just sew following the pins and removing them from the critical path as I go. To help me visualize this flap, there must be a technical term for this, but I found it a bit easier to cut while it was on a dress form. I only did 1/2 on the dress form, and then I folded the top in half down the center middle so that I could follow that curve for hopefully a symmetrical outcome. After this point, I entered a phase known as I am now second guessing all of my decisions. And it began with me adding this inner skin tone stretch layer because I was 1, worried that the white knit was so stretchy that the pattern was going to be too wide on me, and 2, that it was going to be completely see-through. So this new layer is supposed to provide both stability and obstruct light. Then I cut my own strips of fabric in the same white knit to sew channels for the boning. I'm supposed to fold it in half, sew right sides together, and then flip the tube inside out, but I was so unsure if this was going to look nice that I completely forgot how to even set up an efficient flip. Let me show you what you should be doing. 1, sew a small distance on the tube. 2, insert a zip tie. 3, wrap and tie the loose threads snugly around the zip tie. 4, continue sewing until you get to the end of the tube fabric. And then number 5, pull on the zip tie to invert the tube. This is much more efficient than this. The stress is diminishing. I finished the boning on the left side. Honestly, it doesn't look that bad. The reason I just do one side first is so that I can figure out what the heck is going on, and then on the other side I explain to you what I advise. Here I am pinning 6 boning channels to the front, and it's just because I just wanted to see how it would all look sewn in place. I first sewed along the inner edge, which is the edge closer to the center of the body. Then I insert all of the zip ties, sew the outer edge of the boning channels, cut the zip tie heads off, and then trim all of their corners and file the zip tie so that it's rounded and not likely to puncture through the fabric. The horizontal channels were sewn in pretty much the same way, except you shouldn't sew over the zip ties. It's not good for your sewing machine. So I skipped sewing once I reached every single vertical boning channel and just tried to hug as close as possible. This is a firm board now full of our zip ties. I've learned a lot through making this. And I always just dread like getting schooled by the comments when I'm like, I know. All day I've just been putting it on like this to see how I feel about it. Basically, I'm just gonna keep investing time into this, even though I'm not sure it's gonna lead to the outcome I want, but you kind of just won't know until you go for it. Yes. Yep. What am I making? Today is the day. I gotta sew the oblique channels right here on the sides. This is gonna go almost the exact same as how I've been doing all the other boning channels, except the horizontal channels do have to be trimmed to the exact length so that they just meet the obliques. And the trimming does involve rounding the corners, filing it smooth. If you used Featherlight or any other more classic fabric boning, you would not be running into all these zip tie challenges, but these are unique circumstances where I'm stuck at home and I can't go to a fabric store. I'm just trying to innovate here. I saw Makara Tours do it and that made me believe that I could do it too. So I still have to trim and file all of these so that they're like just a centimeter away from the edge, and that gives you room for seam allowance. Then got to get the rotary cutter out. I need 4 centimeter strips cut from the knit fabric. I'm trimming the edges on an angle, sewing them right sides together, and then cutting away the excess corners so that it's all one big ribbon. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. This is all going to get folded up and wrapped around the entire outer edge of this corset, and if you cut it straight instead of on an angle, straight causes a lot of fabric to bulk up in one place. We're going to bind this neckline, bind the entire outer edge of the strap all the way to the back, and also the entire bottom. I'm just going to be sewing this ribbon to the inside of the corset, then flipping it over to the outside and sewing it down with a straight stitch. Walking foot, will you save the day again? I don't actually have a white zipper on hand, which would have been really nice. So I'm just going to use the only zipper I have that does have a completely open bottom and is suitable for this type of purpose. For the zipper, I've pinned the back right sides together, and I'm going to sew right here with a straight stitch, but on the longest stitch length possible, because it's just a placeholder to try to create a nice closure that hides as much of this zipper as possible. I just don't really want this navy to show through that much. After that straight stitch, I open the back up, place the zipper right down the middle, and I'm gonna pin this in on both sides, sew it in as best as possible before undoing this outer stitch, and that way it helps these two sides to kiss as best as possible. With all of that being done, including my phase of second guessing everything that I was doing, this is the finished corset inspired top. If you decide to make this or any of my other DIYs, don't forget to use hashtag #MadeWithWendy so I can find it, I can heart it, I can repost it. I didn't want to dwell too much on the mistakes I made while making this, but if you want to ask any questions, please do so in the comments. I will be happy to respond and clarify things I did, like why did I have a dart over here and then have a boning channel over here and not have them overlap? It's called a mistake. I will post more photos on my Instagram @WithWendy. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell notification, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye-bye!